Dynasty is yeah. Dynasty is live. Yeah. Dynasty is live. Get it back. Yeah. From the ground floor. Yeah, we started with a vision. Blueprint in the smoke, guard pressure, all precision. Late nights, hard calls, every move had a reason. Built it brick by brick, now the whole room thieving. Hope I've been hit big, felt the love in the crowd. Hands in the air, yeah, they said it out loud. Every grin, every shout, we could feel it come down. From a sea to a wave, now we run this town. Hold up, you can hear it in the brass. Cut sharp, cut clean. Every step got a stamp, every bar got steam. We've been moving too fast for the old out team. Now the name hit the room like a loud wire beam. Now the dynasty is live. Now the dynasty is live. We can't ignore it.
Welcome back to Brick Dynasty Live. Tonight we have a returning guest and someone I would like to call a friend from this community who has done a lot for us and somebody I'm very excited to see back in the room. We have Mr. Kulhan with us. Good evening, sir.
How's it going?
Man, you have exploded lately, it looks like. You've doubled up in 90 days or so? 80 some odd days?
It's 91. This is 91.
Okay.
And we've, just over doubled, 427 subscribers in that many days.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I'm quite proud of it, but I can't say I know this kind of sounds big-headed, but I didn't. I figured I might go to about 150 days, but it took me till about day 50 to kind of estimate that. But I honestly thought that daily streams were going to kind of, after maybe 10 days or so, it was just going to start picking up steam, and it would get me there like a lot quicker.
Yeah.
But obviously I'd never done it, and it wasn't based on any kind of research, but I just thought, let's give it a try. And of course, because the first few streams I was doing, it was like sometimes up to 10 subscribers. I thought, oh great, if we carry on like this, I won't have to do this for much longer. But then there were days where it'd be none, and the odd one would fall off. So it's kind of, yes, I'm proud of it. Yes, I'm happy with where it is and the fact that we're getting towards that goal, but also kind of like it didn't go as well as I thought it would, in terms of, I thought it would be a case of 50 days of streaming and it fell in place, or it started doing its own thing. I kind of did I wouldn't say I did research, but I did kind of look into people who do regular streams, and the algorithm kind of picks that up, and then it just kind of takes a life of its own. But that didn't happen. So it only keeps going as long as I keep going.
Mm-hmm.
If that makes sense. So, so I don't know what you got to do to achieve that success, where it just kind of goes, it takes off without you. But yeah, I guess we will see in the fullness of time, or not.
Yeah. Okay, so you're 91 days in, so roughly 3 months, somewhere in there. And you've been kind of all over the map, right? From a minute here and there to much longer streams. Your regular show on Sundays counts, right?
Mm-hmm.
And those are always a marathon.
Yeah.
So a lot of variety mixed in there.
Yeah, I didn't. I was kind of glad that I didn't commit to anything specific from day one. It was just daily streams, and I kind of stretched that out a little bit. There was a time where I don't know what happened, but it was like gone midnight. I don't know whether I fell asleep or something. I just thought to myself, well, not everybody's watching it is from the UK, so it is still Tuesday somewhere, kind of thing. And I know that makes it a lot more loose. But the idea is that I'm doing a stream daily. So it's not as if I'd done that one early hours in the morning and didn't do one the next day, So, but yeah, so I think it just became basically just fitting it into my routine. It was just kind of like, I don't know, maybe like brushing your teeth, or it's become like brushing your teeth, where, you know, depending on what you're doing or what you're up to, you might brush your teeth at a different time of day, and you might spend a little bit more, a little bit less time on it, depending on how much time you've got. And it just became, I can't think of another example, but it's just become routine now. And it is just like last night, was the night before? I think it was last night. It was the first night where I went to sleep and I was about to drop off when I remembered, oh, I haven't done my daily live stream. And even Kirsty was at the point where she was like, go on, just do a quick one though. Whereas, you know, a couple of months before, she would have been like, oh, forget about that, just go to sleep. So she knows that she supports that commitment. And yeah, it was just, I think I felt like it took a life of its own in terms of changing my outlook on the whole thing. Because I think to start with, I was doing it from behind the desk every day. I was putting pieces on the set, or taking pieces off the set, and then what was, you know, out of town. And it was very much trying to keep it a Lego. Not just, it was a day where we were out and about. I mentioned to Kirsty, oh, we're gonna have to, I'm gonna get back because I got to do my live stream or whatever. He said, why don't you just do it here? And I was like, we were out and about. I don't know where I think we were out, like in the park or something. She said, why don't you just do it here now? And I was like, oh yeah, give that a try. And it was such a popular stream. It was so active. I was just sitting out. We'd had a bit of a picnic, and we were just out, and some dogs were coming up to us while we were eating our picnic, and we were kind of, you know, getting friendly with them, and I was filming them, and then the owners would come and have a chat with us. And, you know, the train was going past because the train where we were at Ava Park is right on the beachfront, and there's a train that kind of shoots by, so I was filming them coming out of the tunnel and going across the front of the beach and all this kind of stuff. And it was just really popular, and I don't think I mentioned Lego once, and it wasn't until, you know, the stream ended and I just saw that the interactions on that stream were like through the roof compared to what I'd seen elsewhere, even on the show, in terms of like the amount of comments, the amount of likes, the amount of interactions, and I was just like, oh, it blew me away. So Kirsty said, well, that's what it is. She said, I think people want to see just everyday life stuff. My concern then was, though, if I'm pulling new people in, because that was the whole point of it. It wasn't just to get subscribers. It was to, you know, find new people out there who we could welcome into the community. But my issue is if I was doing too much of that, there'd be a lot of new people coming into the channel, which is what we wanted. But they were coming in because of the non-Lego stuff I was doing, and then what's keeping them here, kind of thing. So Chris said, well, if that's the case, just your daily live streams, maybe make that your normal everyday life, and not necessarily Star Wars Lego focused. And then I decided, right, well, I'm going to add the parts every Wednesday. So at least once a week, we're going to have a stream, which every Wednesday where we add parts to the set. So it becomes Lego based and we talk about things like that. And she said, just do it as and when, and whatever's going on. Marco's a man is saying hi, and now he's saying bye. So appreciate you popping by.
All right. Yeah, actually, on that note, since you mentioned in chat here, let's check in with these people. We got Liam in here with us. What's going on, man? Joel's Bricks. Hello.
Joel.
Insinuium. All right. Liam. I'm friggin' blind. All right. So I said that one right. Victor Santini. Oh, geez. I'm sorry, I can't possibly pronounce that. It's Celestala.
Yeah, I think
this is why it's tough saying hi to everybody. All right, so Marcos Tradezo, we content. All right, beautiful, thank you. No, we are not Mormon. Sure, men who needs cookies. I don't know why that matters, but that's fine. Let's see. Papa Rex is in here with us too. What's going on, Papa Rex?
Papa Rex, what are you doing?
Liam is not just commenting; he is actually here. So good to see you. Good to see you, Liam. So okay, so you went to day-to-day content. How did that feel? Did that feel weird, or did it just feel like supernatural? Regular.
To start with, it was strange because I kind of felt like I had to do this whole I'd been used to doing this whole kind of introduction, like, you know, with our regular show, and that it had to be a certain way. I'd have the lighting, the key lights down here. I'd have the all my bits and pieces ready to go, and they would be like, right, everything good. And I did that for, like I said, for a while, until I think it was that day that I did that stream out and about on the go, and realized that people don't really care about stuff like that when it's a daily stream. As long as I think they can see, or, you know, as a whole, your channel does have some structure in terms of, like, you know, the show that we have regularly, then I think it's okay to have something, you know, there's perhaps the opposite of that, or different to that, or more relaxed than that. So from then on, I just didn't bother. I was mostly streaming from, like, here where I am now, and not in my normal streaming space, just to kind of give it a break. The only reason I'm here now actually is because Kirsty's obviously in bed, so I'm like an extra floor down from her than I would be if I was in my normal streaming space, just to give her a chance to not wake it up. But yeah, it just made me realize that actually it's not about the setup and what I look like and where I am, or even what I'm talking about. It's just about interacting with the chat, and also them getting to see something a bit more raw, a bit more natural, you know. Like I said, I stopped doing the whole Lego thing, and to be honest with you, apart from the Wednesday streams, I don't really go back to it, and I just saw like a complete difference. And then I had a conversation with Kirsty recently, actually, and I said, well, my issue is when I finally do stop doing these daily streams, for all those people who've gone on board because they like to just see what you're up to. Are you out and about? Are you sitting around? Are you going to the cinema? What, you know, just talking about daily stuff. What's to keep them after that if I'm not going to do it? She said, well, why don't you just do a regular stream like that? You know, even if it's just once a week, just to do a, you know, check the camera on and interact with people and just show them your daily life. And she said, and maybe introduce some content that is about what you've been up to rather than just Lego. So I've been considering that, to be honest with you, because I think it's a good piece of advice. Like I said, my concern was always, I don't want to have one of these accounts where it's 1,000 or whatever it might be subscribers, but they're all kind of empty seats, you know? Yep. Which I do find on a lot of accounts where there's not that kind of level of interaction. Those people don't necessarily tune in. They're just kind of there, and they just half the time don't even know that or remember they've subscribed. And I have seen the difference in that, because there's been a lot of new people who are popping into the show, coming into the daily streams and saying hello. And, you know, I can just tell straight away, a couple of the people in the chat today where they've just immediately said hi and named me and made some kind of comment that makes me think, right, they've come, might not know their name and know them particularly well, but I know they've come from the daily streams. And you can just tell it feels like two different people, like, you know. And some of those have slowly interacted within the community. There's a guy called, I can't remember exactly, I forget what his real name is, but I picked up on, I interacted with him on a live stream very, very early on. And Josh, Imagine Art. And we got chatting, and I think he popped into another daily or so. And then I think when we celebrated 400, which was the first kind of milestone we hit, he reached out to me and said, you know, could I be on the live stream? And I was like, yeah, I don't see why not. So we had him come on. At some point, I can't remember whether it was that. I don't think he ended up being on that one, but I think he came on the 500 one in the end. But he's done a couple of live streams with me now on these dailies, and yeah, just gotten to know him. And he's into Lego, but he's into a few other things as well. And it's just nice to kind of, you know, make these extra acquaintances. And even the lads have been noticing it, because we do the live Sunday show, and there's new people popping into the chat, and you see Witticky or Slurpee going, oh, we got someone new in the chat. And I was like, no, they're not new to me. And they'll be like, oh yeah, I'm so and so, I'm from Mississippi. I got chat with Cool Hand the other day, blah blah blah, this, that, and the other. And, you know, in most cases I will remember them, as long as there's something there to remember. But no, it's been good. Like I said, but it has given me going back to your question, it has given me that kind of, it's taken away the edge off of just going live. I've gotten into this habit now of just kind of pressing that YouTube button, not setting up a thumbnail, not worrying about all that kind of stuff. I've got the titles and the title and description of all of these YouTubes, kind of in my phone, ready to go. I could just add them later, and I'm just hitting that button and just seeing what's going on, and letting the chat keep me motivated, keep me going. But I definitely think it's given me an outlook on the channel for the future, and myself as well, where I am going to try and incorporate some everyday, some life kind of stuff. And to be honest with you, I've seen a lot of that going on across the community, including yourself, where you introduced a kind of stream that would be yourself and Tanya. I can't remember what you called it. Is it like Night Out or something like that?
Dynasty Date Night. Yep.
Dynasty Date Night, that's it. So it kind of incorporates or sprinkles it. I know Tanya's always been quite present, in the background or sometimes in the foreground with what you've been doing anyway. Similar with myself and Kirsty, but to have that, over the time you've just kind of realized, well, actually, this is something people want to see, or this is something that you'll get enjoyment out of as a couple, as well as, being able to create content, whatever it might be. And, have a bit of your own life in there rather than this kind of identity that we all kind of take on. And I just feel like as I've been doing this, that identity that you put on yourself, this kind of cool hand Luke when you're behind the screen, I'm Martin when I'm off screen, that curtain has kind of just started to fall a little bit, Whereas I feel more comfortable now just being myself, and not that I didn't before, but it's a bit more open now. The kind of doors are open, and I think people gravitate towards that. I think people like that kind of thing. So I do think it's important for me to, going forward, to in some way, shape, or form, try and have something that's not necessarily purely Lego. Even like I said, even if I just do one of these kind of flick it on, how's it going, once a week, and just talk about daily life. And I think anybody out there watching, like obviously I'm no expert in content or any of that kind of thing, but in terms of like a sense of well-being and not pressure and not I've got to hit this and I've got to hit that, and achievements and getting monetized and all those kind of things, it gives you I feel like it gives you a more of a sense of like well-being and relaxation, and it makes the hobby feel less kind of forced when you get the chance to be yourself, as well as maintain this identity. And I feel like I said, that kind of curtain has kind of pretty much dropped now, and it just makes it easier for me to just switch on and be myself. I haven't brushed my beard, I'm looking a bit tired, I'm not wearing a cool hand t-shirt or a Lego based t-shirt, I'm just wearing sometimes my pajamas. I've laid in bed about to go to sleep with pajamas on, just like, right, this is me tonight, guys, or whatever. I'm walking home in the rain on the way home from work, and I just think it just, I mean, I can understand if there's people out there who have come to the channel for the Lego who are not interested in that, and that's fine, because you see those people don't appear in those live streams, or they come and say hello and they say goodbye because they're not interested in anything beyond, Lego chat or perhaps the identity that I've created for myself, and that's fine. It was never supposed to be a please everybody. It was always just supposed to be about, let's achieve something and let's get something out of it for the viewing audience as well as myself, But I got a couple of questions in the chat. I don't know whether that's something.
Oh yeah, a couple of good ones from Liam. You see those?
Yeah. So will Cool Hand stream daily when he reaches 1,000 subs? Short answer to that, Liam, is no. I mean, I kind of was trying to answer that based on Ken's question, but I think I will continue to do something that's a bit more freelance, a bit more, curtains down, and this is me and this is what I'm doing. What that looks like, what day it's going to be, what kind of time situation, it's yet to be determined because we haven't got there yet, and I still got a bit of a way to go. So I just see how I feel after possibly 150 days or so. So congratulations, Kevin, for graduating college.
Yeah, absolutely. Congratulations.
Rob Claxton's out there as well, and Hoda. I haven't seen Hoda for a while. Oh, right. Okay. So Hoda's saying I myself have stopped watching Lego content. And it explains why you haven't been on the show for a while.
If it isn't a mock, I don't care.
Yeah. Hey, look, that's understandable. And I think there's people out there who've got that. I'm pretty much the same, to be honest with you. I'm quite picky with what I watch now. I prefer to watch shows like this or like Liam's, where it's a bit more of a relaxed situation than over-edited stuff. I'm not a big fan of videos, even though people say that that's the key to content on your channel is it's videos. I like that kind of medium-sized content, not the shorts, not the shows, that kind of stuff in between. And I honestly struggle with it because the majority of them are reviews, which is just like, it's so tedious.
Yeah.
Or they're just talking about a convention that I haven't been to and got like perhaps no interest in. So it becomes, I find it quite stale, but obviously it's, every person's got a different, that's why I try to, on the channel, again, from quite early on, I wanted to do something that I wasn't already doing, and just kind of have a variety. So then when people do subscribe to the channel or consider subscribing to the channel, they can see, okay, he's got some shorts. Some are stupid, fun, Lego based. Some are just AI generated clips from the thing. Some are, promotional type ones. He's got a long running live show, which is Lego based, but quite interactive as well. There's a couple of videos on there. There's daily streams. There's plenty to, probably not the best mixture in the world, but at least there is a bit of everything there, for different people. So, but yeah, that was the main intention, was to just draw people in and keep them, but for the right reason, not because I need the numbers, because I want to keep growing, and grow the community with it. So, question: will Cool Hand do a daily stream on his wedding day? If I still need to be going by then, we are about 78 days out from the wedding.
Oh, it's still a while. Okay.
Yeah, still it's middle to end of August. So that would put me at about 180-ish days. And I don't, but again, it's just finger in a wind, but I think it's probably going to finish around about 150. But what I will say, Liam, is Slurpee, Whittaky, and Nimble are all coming to the wedding. We're not having a massive wedding, so anybody out there who feels like they've been left out, there's like 28 people, including myself and Kirsty. So it's a very, very micro wedding. And I'm not having a lot of family. In fact, I've only got 4 family members coming, which is my mum, my dad, my brother, and my sister-in-law. So it's not I've swapped friends, for family, basically. So those guys are coming across, and we are staying in an Airbnb. Well, they are staying in an Airbnb from Sunday, and the wedding's Tuesday. So Sunday night stream will be the 4 of us in person, doing the regular show together in the same room. So that'd be interesting. It wouldn't be the first time we've all been on a stream in the same room, because we did it at Brick Dynasty. Yeah. But of course, that wasn't our regular show, and it was a bit kind of messy because everybody was. There's a bit of carnage. There's about 20 guys in a room. So,
smell that room. Oh.
Yeah, it's just the waft of testosterone and broken dreams, So, but so we, so yes, we'll be doing the show live. So that's something to look forward to, and that's regardless of where I am with this daily stream thing. And then the Monday, we're going to be out and about all day with various other male family and friends from, mine and Kirsty's family. I wouldn't call it a stag as such, but we're just kind of separating off for the day. I'll be staying with the lads then that night, So it'd be a shame not to quickly check the camera on at least while we're all kind of hanging out the night before the wedding. And to be honest, I mentioned to Kirsty just as a joke, oh, well, I'll do a daily live stream. And she said, well, even if you're not having to do your daily by then and you've passed your target, whatever, I still think you should, at least have the camera on and be like, kind of have some candid footage of, people on the dance floor, whatever it might be. Because, and I wouldn't have considered that before, regardless of the daily thing. But I think it's because Kirsty's kind of recognized, and I have too, that that's the kind of thing people want to see. If you're doing something that's different or unusual, or, it's a little bit different if I was, in my work every day, because then that that breaks through a different barrier of my work lifestyle. And if I was showing, Kirsty and Maya regularly on the channel, which I don't tend to do, certainly not their faces if I can help it, because that breaks down a barrier for them. But in terms of just seeing what I'm up to, what's going on, and obviously if the boys are there as well, because they got a link to the channel, then it feels a shame not to do it. And again, people can kind of watch or not as they so wish. But I think, again, people have been joining me on this journey. And it does feel like I'm kind of driving some train through, wilderness and all the rest of it. And people are kind of jumping on and off as they so please. But I feel like I almost owe it to them to do stuff from the wedding, even if we've achieved the target by then, because I've talked about it's been one of the long running topics throughout it, because we've been counting down the wedding physically in the house. We've got a countdown board, and that's become topic of conversation in quite a lot of these streams. So there's been a lot of people who are like, they know it's coming, they're kind of on that countdown with me. Does that feel a bit invasive? Does that feel a bit like, well, it's not special to us because now people all over the world are also it's 60 days, it's 70 days.
Yeah, but they're cheering for you, man. That's good.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. And it took me a while to kind of recognize that that's not invasive. Actually, that's people who are genuinely interested and they genuinely want to see. And that is kind of just that countdown of the wedding, which kind of becomes a casual conversation through these daily live streams, slowly but surely, a little bit at a time here and there. But that is a kind of almost a potted version of what we're doing, or what I'm doing generally anyway, if that makes sense. It's like that's what this whole thing is about. It's about having people on board to get this, to be involved in this countdown and really be cheering for me and the channel. And yeah, so it's nice to see within this kind of countdown, within this target, we've also got that countdown, that target. So yeah, you're right. I think seeing them excited about it and asking questions about it, like Liam's doing, and getting, kind of involved. And again, like, there's been a few people who ask quite regularly, what's the countdown at now, whatever. That is, it's nourishing, and that, again, another one of those things that can gets the juices flowing and keeps you going,
Yeah, I think, like, I don't know, society as a whole at this point is just kind of very lonely, right? You go to work and you do your 8, 10, 12 hours or whatever it is that you're doing, and then you come home, you're exhausted, you're an adult, you have kids or you don't, whatever, you're not going out. What do? You still kind of want that human contact, but you're not really going anywhere. Live streams are a great outlet for that, right? You hop on, you meet some new people, as far as the internet goes, right?
Yeah.
And you kind of share a little piece of that life, but you don't actually have to go anywhere. And it still kind of feels like you're getting that human connection.
Yeah.
Your streams are great for that. I mean, they're filling a need for a lot of people, I think.
Yeah.
So,
no, and look, I don't. I said this to you on the live the other day. I don't think I'm breaking ground. It's impossible, in fact, to do anything original or do anything different or do anything new, whether you know about it or not. With social media the way it is, and specifically things like YouTube, those days are gone of doing something for the first time or doing something new or original properly. Within reason, like, obviously if you're eating Lego pieces every day on a stream, then it might be a different story. But, in terms of what people expect or want to see, big bottle of tomato ketchup on the sofa, I just noticed. What the hell's that doing? Well,
where else would you keep it?
Well, I don't eat the stuff, so I'm guessing that's Kirsty's just left it there for whatever reason. Unless she's taking it, she's in the middle of packing. So if you can see some stuff on the sofa, she's packing. She's going on a trip to London with her mother.
She has to bring ketchup.
Well, that's what I'm thinking. She left that out because she's planning to take it with her. So I don't know.
Everybody needs travel ketchup.
So it's a big old bottle, but so yeah, so yeah, I think, like I said, I don't believe that I'm doing anything new or groundbreaking, but within what I'm doing, I feel like I've done a good job of making it personal to me and making it, real and raw. And, there's been no kind of script or anything like that. And I've not got to the point where I feel like I need one. Again, when I first started doing it, I was like, what am I going to say? How am I going to keep this going? I got no kind of co-hosts to bounce off. And it just made me realize that I don't need them. I mean, I need them for the show, but I don't need them for something like this. But yeah, I feel like anybody, I'm not doing anything that nobody else could do. The challenge really is just the remembering it and just keeping that passion for it. That's the only real thing that I feel like I'm doing that most people would give up on. But the two things that have helped with that is, one is that once you've gotten sort of 30, 40 days deep, like I said to you on the stream the other day, that almost becomes your motivation because, well, I don't want to let it go now. I can't let it go after all this time, So the commitment you've made is the commitment you've made. But the other thing is the people in the chat. And there have been times where the chat's been absolutely overwhelming. There's been times where there's been kind of nobody in the chat. And I'm okay with that, because I think I've also noticed that depending on the length of the stream, I do get quite a lot of replay views on it. Like I might end the stream with, 100 views, and by the time I check it the following morning, it's on, 140. That could be somebody who's watched it for a second. I appreciate that. There's no way of knowing, unless you're an analytics guy. But the fact that it has been, people have kind of clicked onto it after the fact is, it makes it worth doing. I see Hive in the chat as well. Hive, how are we doing, mate?
What's going on, Hive? Good to see you.
I see two very handsome. I see two very handsome men. Yeah, nice. Thank you. Assuming I'm one of them, then yeah, thank you.
Oh, jeez.
Liam is off. Yeah. Have a good day.
I can't wait to meet him in a couple of weeks.
Yeah. It's funny, actually. We were talking about Brick World the other day. I don't know how the conversation came up. I was talking to Kirsty about it, and she was saying, what is, I said that the main things I'm going to miss is catching up with the guys who I kind of familiarize myself with now in the community, like yourself, Tanya, Smokey. I don't try and name everybody, but those people who will go in and we had a kind of good relationship or connection last year. I'm going to miss that more than going to see Lego mocks and doing streams from a stage, all that kind of thing. But also the people who are going this year that I would love to have met, Papa Rex, Liam, and I feel like meeting Liam in person, I've come as close to that as I'm ever going to do, at least until we do meet, obviously. So it doesn't feel like it's like, well, I've seen you on the odd stream and now you are in person. But it just does feel kind of a bit sad that I'm kind of missing out on that, I'll be honest. So, and I'm just seeing what Hoda is putting in the chat as well. And yeah, he's not Lego content, Lego set content.
Yeah.
Yeah, specifically people giving themselves a pat on the back for finishing a Lego set. Yeah. No, I get that. And I'm not knocking other content. I'd be a fool to sit here while I'm, in the process of daily streaming just to be able to get subscribers and then say, wow, everybody else is doing crap content, because it's just not for me. That's all I'll say. And just watching somebody build a Lego set on, a speed build, or talking about a Lego set they've built, or cracking open a Lego set, I don't really find that interesting. I do get on board with people who are building a Lego set on stream, but again, I'm not really there for seeing them build a Lego. In most cases, you don't see it anyway. I'm just there for the chat, the interaction, what else is going on in the chat. There's been times where I've been so involved in the chat. I'll use Madlib as an example. Madlib does a Madlib Monday. Shout out to Madlib. And his stream on a Monday, I've been in there several times and I've gotten so involved in the chat that I'm not really even paying attention to what he's saying or the Lego set he's building. Might not even be, I couldn't even remember a set that he's built in the streams that I've seen recently of his. But the chat is kind of where it's at. And I think that goes for our streams as well. I feel like there was a time where everybody was kind of saying hello and you're reading out their comments, and now it's got to the point where at least 50% of the conversation is with each other and not even necessarily connected to what you're talking about. So you could be talking about, I don't know, 2025 Lego sets that rank our top 5. In the chat, you hear, yeah, got a long day of work. Oh, yeah, had a great day. Oh, what about this weather? I'm thinking, well, but it's great to see, because it just means there's a community within a community, So, and I think that's really encouraging. And again, that's something that's always been, it's made that kind of big skip to see that in the chat, but also be a part of that in other people's chats. And it's given me that kind of filled in that space, that emptiness that I've got in my real life, which is that I don't socialize a lot with people. I don't have a kind of friend group in person. I don't sort of go to the pub, or I don't have a regular hangout. I don't go and play a sport. I don't do any of those kind of things. And this kind of replaces that. So it is good for that, good for the well-being. But also, it's the reason what drove me to be like, if I'm going to try and move this channel forward, let's do it in a way where I can make new friends and acquaintances. So yeah.
Now, you've managed to do this also without any kind of sensationalism, no antics of any kind. Like, you haven't set aside days to do a whole bunch of weird shit.
No.
And you've still kept it. I mean, that makes it more impressive what you've accomplished, because it's not like, hey, this Wednesday, watch me walk on broken glass, or some other ludicrous kind of thing. It's like, no, I'm just gonna walk home in the rain, and people are gonna like it. I actually caught you on one of those streams walking.
Yeah,
it looked like you were gonna go rob somebody. It's great.
Yeah, I mean, the weather's changed dramatically now, so I'm walking home the same time at night, and it's shorts and t-shirt, but no, I haven't done those as much, because I feel like the replay on those isn't the best, just because the shaky hand cam, I can't. My hand isn't the steadiest in the world as it is. So, of course, when you're walking home, there's not really... Because Kirsty said, oh, well, can you take something or a tripod? And I said, but it's not supposed to be... It's supposed to be about me engaging in the chat. But it does get bad when your hand is and it's shaky and it's dark and you can't really see a lot. So although everything I've said up until now kind of is... and I do reaffirm it, that it's supposed to be me, it's supposed to be real, it's supposed to be raw. I do feel that there is a level of, you lose that level of watchability. If you're in the chat and it's live, you can kind of get over that if you can interact with the person. or even the other people in the chat. But when you're watching that back, it's like there's nothing there for them, you know. So I've kind of tried to stop doing that, just because I felt like watching those back was kind of, you know, even for me, kind of, I was cringing a little bit, and I was like, what the hell is this all about?
Right. Well, okay, so let's talk about the replay then, because you mentioned this the other night, but we're going to talk about it a little more. You said that, if I remember this right, you have them set so that they don't automatically become available. You have to actually go and set it yourself and add the thumbnail and whatnot.
Yeah.
What's the turnaround time on that? Just next day or whatever you get around to it?
Yeah, I don't tend to do it the same night. I tend to do it just mostly because I end up streaming quite late, but I tend to do it like a day or so later. You know, every now and then I might forget that I haven't done a few and make another few, because I think the settings on mine show them all anyway. So sometimes I have to literally click the private button to realize that there might be 2 or 3 there that I haven't made public. Because I use my phone generally to look at YouTube, and on there it automatically shows everything. Well, at least it does on my phone, on my settings. YouTube has become, or YouTube on the phone has become, or mobile device, YouTube has become very kind of, it wasn't like this to start with. It's become very kind of intuitive, where it kind of, it shows you what it thinks you want to see based on your regular settings. So, so basically, yeah. So Hive actually brought this up because I think it might have been Hive the first time around, where I'd been going a handful of days, and he gave me a shout out. I don't know whether it was in a live stream or he might send me a voice note. I think we were probably maybe 10 or 20 days in, and he said, "Oh, there's a couple of streams where I don't even know how he could see them, but he's saying I could see there's some streams, but they're private. So you must still be able to see them." And I didn't realize that was the case. I thought private meant that it just didn't even appear for viewing.
Weird.
So I'm not sure how he's seen that, or what that looks like from his end, but because I can see like members only, and obviously you can't click into them if you're not a member.
Yep.
But in terms of private, I don't ever remember coming across a stream that's private that I can't play because it's privatized. So I don't know how he's seen that. But either way, it was good looking out from him, because at that point, like I said, it was early on. So I was doing streams, thumbnail, and setting everything up and preparing. And those ones were, because I was doing them through StreamYard, those ones were immediately going live, like this one will. And anything I do for StreamYard will, because I don't change the privacy setting on that. But the ones I'd done straight to my phone, which was very few at that point, had automatically privated, and I didn't realize that setting was in place. So when I kind of looked into it, I made them all public, thanked him for shouting that out and making me aware of it. And I was going through my phone trying to work out, right, how do I undo this now? But then I realized, well, actually, that's not a bad thing to keep in place, because what it does is it gives me the opportunity to just hit that live button without having to do any of that preparation prior, and then I can add that afterwards, because the thing I picked up on through doing that research was that it says if you're doing any kind of stream or any kind of content, avoid at any cost making edits once it's live or once it's been published, because that can really seriously affect it. You know, if you're in the thousands, the millions of views, I think you probably wouldn't really notice so much. But when you're trying to grow a channel, it's probably one of the worst things you can do. It would just be like, I don't know, like anything else. If you start off a bakery, and you're pulling your kind of cakes in and out. Oh, wait a sec, I need to put it out, and it just kind of gives people this impression that what's going on here? It's kind of, so by doing that, editing in terms of adding a title, adding a description, adding a thumbnail could be done afterwards, all in one go, to make it available for replay as a separate thing to the actual live stream itself. So they're like almost two things. when we do a StreamYard stream like this, you don't really need to do that because you'll have prepared for it, you'll have done the description, what have you, and it's kind of ready to go. So you've kind of got it packaged, ready to present. Whereas with a live stream, you're talking about the content, you know, the content is kind of published for those watching it. Nobody scrolls through the shorts feed or YouTube or comes across those live streams because of the thumbnail or the description. So that's not what's pulling them in anyway, except for the people who are already, you know, affiliated with your channel or your members or whatever it might be. And in which case they'll do that regardless of a thumbnail or a description. So it didn't really serve any purpose in terms of a daily stream. And it just made it easier for me to just hit the button, go live, and then kind of throw the phone and do whatever I'm going to do, go to bed, and then I can address it tomorrow. And I don't have to feel as if I've edited something, because if you edit it before it's public, it doesn't make any difference. It doesn't affect that kind of algorithm thing. So, and that's what I've been doing ever since. Like, even now I go on my phone, I can see there's like 2 of my daily streams that haven't been made public. I'm not in any rush to put them out there because it's not a tick box for anybody. I don't think anybody's like, right, I've got to have seen every one. And even if they do want to do that, they can still do it because it will be made public at some point. So, so yeah, I just think it's, I kind of found it by accident, but I would definitely recommend it if anybody's doing that and wants to kind of get into this kind of thing. Then it's a good shout. And I see Serena. Yeah, Serena. So Serena's a perfect example of somebody who I kind of, or I say stumbled across. I guess we stumbled across each other because, and she's straight out of Mississippi. So, and yeah, come into the streams. Don't even think she's necessarily a Lego fan. But come into the streams, popped back on a few streams, popped on the show on a Sunday and kind of checked in and watched for a little bit. And yeah, there we go. So Star Wars fan, that was right. So Serena's a Star Wars fan. So scrolling live stream the other day, came across Star Wars Talk and been commenting or coming ever since. So I appreciate you, Serena. And that's a perfect example of you know what we're looking to do is to build this community. And I do say community because it's not my community, it's just a community. And one thing people keep picking up on that I say without even realizing I'm saying it, and it's certainly not rehearsed, is we're trying to get to this on this channel. We are live streaming every day, and people are like, who's we? It's just you behind the camera. And I'm like, yeah, but I say we, I don't just mean we as in the people who work on the channel, because it's not all me. Yeah. But I say we as in we as a community, because I know there's, when we hit that 1,000, there's people out there who will be probably almost as excited and thankful and you know, feel rewarded by hitting that achievement and that goal as much as I am. Yep. Which is, it's just a fantastic feeling, you know. So
yeah, and we cheer for you all the time. And the last couple, all 3 of the Dynasty Date Nights we've done, we've given people updates on your progress because we're all cheering for you. Like,
yeah, I appreciate that.
It's an awesome, like, exciting thing that you're doing, and it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun to see.
Yeah, and you know, I had a quick shout out to some of the other channels who've done the same. I know Brick has mentioned it in his, Liam's mentioned it.
Brick World, Mark, on his channel every week.
Oh, I didn't see that. Yeah. So there you go. It's just so it just it is nice to just kind of have that level of camaraderie and that level of kind of, you know, people cheering you on. And again, it's another reason, it's that third reason to keep going now. Yes, we're going for a target and building a community. Yes, I'm carrying on because of the chat and because I can't not do it now, just for my own self-worth, but also the fact that other people want to see that achievement. The only thing I'm a little bit disappointed about is that I haven't been as on the ball with the, right, we've hit 600, let's celebrate. We've hit 700. We did it for 400. I think by the time I hit, we did the 500 one, we'd already passed 600. And then since then, I haven't had a chance to do 600 or 700. But but I'm hoping to try and do at least one of those this week.
And what are you at now?
It's 738.
Nice.
So I'm hoping to do 600 and 700 before we hit 800, but see how it goes, I guess.
So I'm at 803 right now.
I did see you past 800, mate. Yeah, real well done.
There's a very good chance you're going to hit 800 before I hit 804. Yeah. It has been rough lately. We go up 2 or 3, we go back 2 or 3. We've been pissing some people off lately. So
I remember Ostiff did a stream a while back. I wanted to say I think it might have even been May last year, and I think he hit 300 subs during that live stream he was doing, and I was kind of there for it, and it was like, yay, celebration, well done, congratulations, blah blah. And then I think he joked that he just dropped back a few subs, shortly after, but nobody was really looking at that. It was just, he'd hit the 300, blah blah. And I remember kind of going and checking out his channel, because he went off the radar a little bit then for a while for personal reasons, which we won't get into, but and I remember going and checking, and I wasn't looking to see how many subscribers he had. That's the last thing on my mind when I'm checking other channels. But I noticed that he's got back to 300 again. So, and it just goes to show that it is kind of like, I don't know what the analogy would be, but you have got to keep it going, especially when you're in these kind of numbers. And when I say, it could be hundreds, could even be a few thousand, you've got to keep it going to keep that, blood boiling, if you know what I mean, because I'm not saying that, because he hadn't streamed for so long, he dropped, people are going to disappear, but it does get stagnant. And then it does get, we were like it on the show for ages, way before I started doing any of this, where we were just like yourself, we were, it taken us near enough 18 months just to get to 300, and we'd never really done anything to really push it. We weren't even saying subscribe to the channel, like the stream, things like that during the show, because it was never really top of our mind, and it still isn't to some degree. But I think when it comes to growing on YouTube, and you want to get to that point where it kind of takes a life of its own, you've got to come out bullet a gate kind of thing. Because I think if you start off slow and steady and, kind of getting the odd subscriber here and there, you almost create your own future on your channel. If I'd started the channel by doing this daily stream, I can pretty much guarantee you that it would have gone through a lot quicker. And again, this isn't from any kind of experience or knowledge. It's just because of what I've been seeing and what I've been reading, where people have started a YouTube channel with a daily stream, and they've got a couple of thousand subscribers after day 50, because the algorithm, people keep calling it the algorithm, and this is kind of like this kind of massive entity, but it is more of an enigma, I think. And nobody really understands it, and you have to be like, the Rain Man to understand it. But essentially what it is you can now compare it to like modern AI, where it learns from the input that it's getting. And if even though the channel's coming up to 2 years, or say the channel's in terms of regular content's coming up to 2 years for us, if you look at the lifespan of that content, it's like, and then, okay, it's kind of picked up here because of the show, which was like once a week. And then now it's picked up. So really, in the grand scheme of things, when you look at the whole, bar chart, or whatever you want to say, line graph, whatever you want to say, really, it's still, in terms of regular content, it's still quite recent. And it's still looking, the algorithm or the AI of the system is still looking at the big picture, which is that it was relatively flat for a long period of time. So, already you've kind of sealed my own fate, in that it'll never be every time I switch on without doing any content. Every time I switch on, it's another 50, another 100, another 1,000. Like I've seen some people talk about doing. It'll never be that. Mostly because I think the type of content I'm doing, which is quite niche. I'm talking about the Lego content now, but when I read stories about people who've gone on and initially did a daily stream or did something regularly or consistently from the very start, it told the system early on that this is what's to come, and it just was like that. But like me and you have had conversations since the first time we ever met on or had a conversation, I guess, at all, about growth of the channel and stuff like that. And I guess your show, your regular show, was the same as ours in that it was just something to keep yourself occupied, talk about something you're interested in, just be slightly behind, almost like glamorizing your hobby for other people to see. And it's taken a life of its own since then. You found a community within a community that kind of rely on you, in your case being that kind of reseller community or that investment community, which I could never paddle in that water, but in terms of you growing the channel, a lot of it's come from you sitting quite comfortably and doing a service within that sub community. You know what I mean?
Well, I kind of screwed myself there because I have the reseller investing side, and then I have the hobby side, right? And they don't necessarily get along, the two different sides. So when I do investing shows, I get a lot of viewership, I get more subs, and then I'll interview somebody from the community, a mock builder, a content creator, whatever, and I'll lose a bunch of the investing people because they're like, what the hell is this?
Yeah.
Like, well, these are Lego people. This is what we're here for, right?
Yeah.
And then all of the Lego people see a reselling show and like, what are you doing here? You're bringing these dirty scalpers on. It's like, wait, no, we don't deal with dirty, we don't deal with dirty scalpers here. That's not a thing that's happening. So
yeah,
it's like I kick myself in the face whichever direction I go. But I'm here for the people. I want everyone in the community to get along, and I'm not bringing a bunch of shitbags on.
Yeah.
So whatever. It is what it is.
No, I get that, and I've been quite open with you about, I struggle with the reseller stuff just because it's not something that I know a lot about. I like dinosaurs, right? I love dinosaurs, but if there was a YouTube show out there talking about fossils and dinosaur bones, you've lost me. They're connected, but they're not. I don't have that level of interest. Movies are the same. So I'm a huge movie fan, and I go to a regular film festival here in my hometown, and I sit and I watch the films, and then they talk about going to these networking events that are kind of out afterwards, which are mostly for the filmmakers, which are the majority of the people watching. And I'm one of the only sort of people who's there just to enjoy the content. And then I've been to one of these networking events. I try and dip my toe in a little bit. And I'm just, not only am I out of my comfort zone, I think one of the guys there was saying, I can see you're not comfortable here because everybody else here is a filmmaker and you're not. And I said, well, without it sounding awful and rude, it's not that I'm out of my comfort zone as much as it is I'm bored, because I don't have, but I'm also not there thinking, I love film, but I wish I was a filmmaker.
Yeah.
I'm not interested in how you shot that scene. I'm interested in seeing what it looks like on screen. If you want to talk about it while I'm looking at it, and maybe that kind of thing in terms of like tidbits.
Yeah.
Well, actually, we shot all that in one scene, whatever. But in terms of like the science behind how they filmed it, why they filmed it, what camera they used. I just think, I'm just kind of, it's not for me. And it's a little bit the same with the Lego community as a whole, in that there's a lot of things, you know, I'd say most of the parts, the elements of Lego that I'm not interested in. And I know it's the same for other people. So I've had that conversation with you, and I've watched those streams, supported those streams. But could I sit there and engage with it and get some enjoyment from it in terms of what you're talking about? No, but not because what you're saying is boring to me. It's just that I don't have enough knowledge and I don't have enough interest in it for it to. And I've had the same conversation with people who I've reached out to people and said, hey, you used to watch our show quite a lot, and I haven't seen you in there for a while, you know, just any specific reason. And you know, the regular feedback I get is, I just don't like all the dicking about. You just don't get on with it. Like, it's just arguing with each other, fart noises, messing about, laughing your heads off, clearly inside jokes, and that is just, I want to see Lego content. And I thought, well, fair enough, you know, and I like the honesty.
Yeah.
I did go to myself, do we need to get rid of that? And
no.
I remember saying to the boys, let's try and be a little bit more, I wouldn't say professional, but I'd say try and be a bit more structured. Let's try and be a bit more like right on the nose. And we tried it out for a couple of weeks, and it just didn't feel right. Didn't feel normal. And we probably lost more people, or had more people switch off from that or give feedback from that than those couple of people who were probably never going to come back anyway. So it's like, you know what, you've got to play to your strengths. But I do think there's still an element of, like what you said, do one for you and one for them. And I think it was Sean actually who reached out to me quite early on. Sean from ACOB, shout out to Sean, said something similar to me. He said, in terms of how you want to take the channel forward, just make sure you're doing something for you and something for them. So, i.e. something for the viewers, but keep, just, you know, don't forget who you are. Don't just keep doing it because, you know, you think that's what people want to see. Yeah. They've got to be able to see that there's a passion and enjoyment from you, or, you know, in our case as well, the third element is that making sure each other are covered. So there might be something that the guys want to do and I'm not interested in, and yeah, I'll take a back seat and I'll just see how they want to run it. I think the difference is now with the hosts, what we've done particularly recently, is that they used to be very good at making suggestions, or when I came up with the topic content and did all the work for it, they would be complaining, why didn't we do this? Why didn't we do that? So I just started saying, okay, if that's what you want to do, there you go. Oh, well, I don't know. Hang about. I've had to work all this stuff out. I'm not a magician. I've had to work out how to set up a tier list and God knows what else. You guys have got the same capability. So you either, without it sounding kind of awful, it was like either turn up and enjoy it, what I've done, sod off, or don't complain, like, kind of thing. But you know, without saying it in that way, it has helped, because now they're doing that. Like, right, we want to do this, or one of the members wants to do this. I'll give you a sneak peek for next week's show, actually, is that Slurpee wants to do ugly Lego, and he has mentioned it a couple of times before. So we're going to be doing ugly Lego sets. So the way we structure the show is around the viewability of that, because that's quite, not everybody's going to want to see that. If we do something Star Wars, we do a battle, or we do a tier list, or we do like a top 5 or whatever, and try to make it engaging in the poll, in the chat, whatever. But if we're doing something like this, we call it a free balling episode, where basically we're just kind of ripping the piss or talking about these sets, and so people get a variety of what it is they see. Can they sit back, watch and laugh, or can they engage and let us know their points of view? Can they get involved in the frustration or whatever it might be? But yeah, so we're doing ugly sets, so we're going to see things like Galador and Christ knows where else. So
Belleville.
Yeah, a bit of Belleville. And I don't know a lot about Lego. Like, it's weird, really, because I'm in this community, but I don't know a lot about the wider Lego. The only thing that I've ever really had a keen interest in is Lego Star Wars myself. I don't see other Lego and think, ooh, that's an interesting set, an interesting figure. I can respect it, but you know, I'm here because Star Wars, Lego makes Star Wars sets, and I probably wouldn't be otherwise. But yeah, no, I guess I can't even remember what the question was, but to kind of round it off, I think it is just important to just continue to be yourself, do something that you love as well as what you think other people will enjoy. And like I said, we've seen a huge change in the show since we made it more interactive. You know, using the polls, using the questions, because it gives them a chance to feel as if they're part of it. And then memberships, which obviously we've recently achieved, just kind of heightens that now, because it gives you that extra layer of, red carpet, but also something you can continue doing behind the scenes in terms of. So what we're going to start doing is we're going to start giving the chat and the opportunity to make suggestions on where they want the show to go in terms of the content. So what do you want to see next week? Maybe give them 4 options, they poll it, or we can just get them to say, hey, what does he want to see next week? Let's have some ideas. We pick the best 4 ideas, and then they'll go into a members only poll, that kind of thing, you know. And it's nice to have that kind of, like I said, it's quite new to me at the moment. You're probably a little bit more used to it than I am, but it's nice to have that little kind of background thing in terms of membership, so you can have a little play with throughout the week, and find something to kind of chuck in there, if you know what I mean. So
yeah, I need to get better at the members only stuff. We do the third Friday of every month. We do a members only show, and we haven't quite figured that out yet because the timing of it's weird. Derek Tadashi is my co-host for that. He's on our team. He does all our design work and whatnot, and he's the best. So hanging out with him is always a pleasure.
Yeah, but
he's on the West Coast, so he's 3 hours backwards.
Right.
So we do it at 10 p.m. Eastern on Friday,
right.
which is great if you're a dad of young kids and you're home on a Friday.
Yeah.
But it's kind of a shitty time for everybody else.
Yeah. So what would that be? 10 p.m. So it would be 7 p.m. for the
7 p.m. for him.
Pacific, yeah. Because I always think 3, but it's actually 4 time zones between you, effectively, isn't it?
Yeah, because
3 hours before time zones, yeah.
Yeah, because we get the kind of forgotten time zone. It's mountain time, I think they are. Yeah. Cody, who was on with us last week, is mountain time.
Right. Yeah. Cody as in Stud Lake?
No. Cody, owner of Brick Slopes.
Oh, right. Cody with a beard. Yeah, I know.
Yep. People are freaking suckers to pay for memberships to YouTube channels. Most of the time, everything gets uploaded to the algorithm anyway. People are broke at spending money on you. Well, I appreciate the thought there. Yeah, we do have the private show. We do other things for our members, and we also, a lot of our YouTube channel members also get free app access with their membership.
Yeah.
Or
yours is definitely a little bit different because you got that extra level.
Yep.
I think with ours, I tried to make sure that from day one we weren't putting anything on the members only or under members only that we were previously doing as part of the channel.
Yep.
So what that means is that everything that's members only is new. I.e. sneak peek at next week's show. I'd be in the thumbnail, getting the chance to help pick the show content. What set am I going to build on the next 5 500, 600, 700 of this kind of road to 1K, which is one active on there at the moment. We've done sneak peeks at our new super chats. So the guys, we did a new super chat with Whittaky as use on Sunday, which was kind of edited down from a video we'd sent to Slurpee, or edited up. But we had that for members only to view 4 or 5 days before we aired it on the show. So I think, you know, what Mandy Lou is saying is right to a degree, in that in a lot of cases we do then that stuff is then available. But membership isn't just about having an extra layer. It's about having extra access sometimes, or early access, or continued access. So like what Brick Hive does, where he does his live show, keeps it available for a couple of days, and then it goes to members only. So you've got that rewatchability for members, which is, you know, a strange move, but it works for him. So with me, I've done something different in that, and again, it is kind of new. Every time I do a daily live stream, as long as it's over a certain amount of time, it generates a kind of 1 minute AI, and you can edit it if you want and change it. And I just don't bother. I just think, well, it's created for me. The AI has created this 1 minute short for me. It's clipped something from that live stream, which sometimes they get it right and they get like a really exciting or fun part. Sometimes they just get half a conversation. So either way, I'm not going to mess about with it. It's free content, but whereas I used to leave it for a couple of days, and then every now and then, if I wasn't putting out any other type of short or any other kind of content, I would just make one of those public, so that I was doing something. But now I immediately make them members only, so members can see that AI short from the daily live stream straight away, and then I'll still do the same thing. A couple of days later, I'll make it. But the going forward, the plan is to have something structured there. So it's not just as and when I feel like doing something. It'll be structured. It'll be access. So our second tier is access in terms of live access, which means if we do a green room, they can be invited on to hang around with us in the green room. If I do a Cold Fusion stream, they got, you know, a reserved seat to come on the panel. If we do that after hours or a black ice show, you know, that kind of thing. So it's more about just getting a little bit closer to what it is we do. But in terms of the standard level, yeah, I think, you know, again, I think what Mandy Lou is saying is it's definitely an opinion that I probably shared myself for a long time, which is people are suckers to carry on paying for extra stuff. But I think if you're invested in the people, invested in the channel, you want to support them without, you know, feeling as if you're having to pay your way. But I also feel like if that membership, both the price and the content, is coming from the right place, in terms of they're not there to try and make money out of you, they're not squeezing the life out of you, they're not holding things behind a paywall. If that is right, I think people will do it, because it's almost like, I want to be a founding member. I want to be a supporter of the channel, you know, without parting with thousands of pounds, without having to buy merchandise, without having to, you know, do all that thing. But I've been really, I said this from the very start to the guys. In fact, we were able to do memberships a couple of months before we actually ended up doing it, because I took so long trying to decide how I wanted it to look, going back and forth. And those guys were just saying, just click the button, make it. And I was like, no, I want to do it right. I want to make sure we launch it properly. And it took me so long because there was just so much I wanted to do. But the main thing for me was just, like I said, not holding things behind a paywall, and not being, I didn't want to do any of this, you know, you've got to be a member to make a comment and that kind of stuff. So I've kind of held back from that. If other people want to do it, that's fine. But I just wanted it to be, this is the normal chat. This is the normal members, subscribers. Same as it's always been. That package hasn't changed. You're still getting that daily meal, if you want to call it that. with all the bells and whistles, 3-course meal, great. But for members, now we're introducing, you know, a kind of an extra entree, which we never would have offered before. And I want to do it like that, as opposed to, well, you used to get this meal, but actually now you've got to be a member to get the kind of starter and dessert, and now you're just going to get this, you know, kind of lump of slop. That was something I was quite passionate about, and I think the guys kind of, from thousands of messages back and forth, kind of got that that's what I wanted to do with it. But yeah, I don't know what it's going to look like. Like I said, it does become another commitment in itself, especially because I'm currently doing the daily live streams. We got the show and now the memberships, and I want to make sure that they're getting something. This is a key point for us because more than half of our current members are gifted memberships. So you know, that's obviously gonna disappear over the course of time, and I'm aware of that. So this is the time to get them on board.
Yeah, really
do the job right, so that they're like, you know what, this is coming to an end. Do I really want to pay 99p a month? And they, you know, hopefully they'll look and they'll see that those perks, and that I've done something, or excuse me, I've regularly done something for each one of those things. And is it worth? Great. And it is, and not because that's going to put thousands of pounds in my pocket, because it's never going to do that, but it helps invest back into the show, which is all we plan to do with it. So
yeah, I mean, it would be cool if you could at least, you know, get StreamYard covered, and maybe pay for an AI or something for, you know, making more songs, right? Whatever, that kind of thing. That's always nice.
Yeah. No, I said to the guys from day one, we did have to have that kind of, I wouldn't say an uncomfortable conversation, because they're all quite passive as it goes. I don't know whether I'd be the same if I was in their shoes, but I did have that conversation with them to say, you know, don't forget this. It's not the show that's getting monetized, it's the channel. And there's a difference, because when you think about the one show a week that we do as a percentage of the content on the channel, in time, it's, you know, it is a big chunk, but in terms of effort put in, work put in, it's makes up quite a small percentage. And then you've got to split that into 4 anyway.
Yeah.
Whereas everything else, you know, I don't have those guys do banners and headers and music or any of that stuff for any of the other content. There's involvement in the show, and that's it. So Liam, you know, he's our kind of sound guy at the moment, and he's kind of, you know, helping us with some music and stuff like that, but it's only for the weekly show. So what I was essentially trying to say to the guys is that, you know, if the day comes where we start doing quite well off the channel, you have got to understand that it's I'll be splitting anything if we get to that point, splitting anything we make from that percentage into 4.
Yep.
And anything else. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
And like I said, you know, I think that they were like, well, I thought we were putting everything back into the show. I said, yeah, that is the intention at the moment. But, you know, we got people making donations and stuff like that. If they're happening during the show, then yeah, it's going to go into a pot. But the pot's still going to sit with me. And I just want transparency from day one, before this even becomes a thing, that, you know, that I've still got that pot. I'm going to do my best to make sure I decide where it goes, and you help decide where it goes. But ultimately, it's mine to decide what I want to do with. And obviously, if Slurpee's saying to me, well, actually, I'm going to start making regular blockhead videos, but I could do with a slightly better camera, then, you know, I might say, well, you know, we've made X amount from the channel, I can put that towards it, and that kind of thing. So somebody's still got to be that treasurer, if you know what I mean.
Yep.
So, which brings me nicely onto what I was going to say next, which is the whole AdSense thing. And I just still can't get my head around it, because I thought I thought I thought I'd read that you have to set it up before you can be monetized, but it's not. You have to set it up before you can earn, which is a slightly different thing. So they won't pay you out until your AdSense is set up. So I thought because everything had activated, I was like, oh, it must be done. And then when I went it through to be like, right, is everything set up? It was like tick, tick, tick. And I think I showed you a screenshot of it to say, you're all set up, you're ready to go. But then it turns out that whatever's sitting in your kind of pot, if there is one, won't pay out until you hit a certain amount anyway. And that won't do that until you've got AdSense set up. So I went through the AdSense stuff again for probably like the 5th time. It's just so overwhelming. It's just pages and pages and document it. And I'm like, what the hell am I doing here?
And then it gets worse. So you go through all that and jump through all of those hoops, and then you finally hit the payout amount, which I think the minimum is $100, right? So you hit the minimum threshold, and then they say, oh no, we're still not going to pay you. We need all of your tax documentation.
And that's especially hard for us in the UK because we don't have access to that like you have in the US, where a lot you do all your own kind of tax forms and stuff like that. Well, unless you're self-employed in the UK, you don't get that. I can't remember the last time I even saw my tax code or anything like that. So it all just gets taken care of by the businesses you're working for in the UK. It's slightly different. I don't exactly know how it's different, but when I'm hearing these people talking about, oh, it's my, I've got to do my taxes, I've got to do this, I've got to do that, and I'm just thinking, I would, it's out of my realm of consciousness, so yeah, so I don't know. So it'd be interesting because it's asking me the same thing. It's basically saying you need to put in your tax information, and I'm like, where do I get that from? So,
that's.
And I was really frustrated as well quite early on because I recognized. I think I'd spoken to Hive about it, and he'd said something like, he'd got a $50 donation, and he saw like, I don't know, $20 of it or something like that. And the last thing I want to do is start talking about sort of money and earnings because it makes it sound like, I'm sitting on some gold mine, which isn't far from the case. But we had somebody do a donation. It was Muttley, in fact, so shout out to Muttley. And it was like a £20 donation. And it was like £8 and 1 penny of it was what actually we came out the other end, if you know what I mean. Yep. And I was quite public about it. And I just said to the guys and to the chat, don't make donations like that. It's I was led to believe we get 70%. That's obviously a lot less than 70%. Well, it turns out if you pay through, and this goes for subscriptions as well, membership payments. If you pay through Apple, I think.
Oh yeah,
Apple
they take an extra chunk.
They take an extra chunk, and I don't mean just that they take more in terms of what they put in and what comes out. In some cases, they charge more as well. So like Nimble was saying to me, he paid £3. And I said, well, how is it £3? He said, well, that's what I've just been charged. And everybody else was like, no, we only paid £2 or £1 for the... And so whether it does that every month or just the initial month, I don't know. But, I said that's the case.
They get scammed.
So crazy. I mean, it's such a large amount. A percentage I can understand. But he's paying, 50% more, at least on that first one. So that's crazy. Yeah. Or 100% more in some cases. So
Apple, they've screwed the whole market. So the way that they work is they tell all these companies, listen, we're going to put a markup on it and we're going to charge a greater percentage. If you don't agree to our conditions, you can't be in the App Store. Well, what happens if you cut out the App Store? You cut out whatever it is, 45% of the market. It's like, well, yeah, that's terrible.
I mean, it's great marketing from them. It's a great way of doing things from them. But
hey, Sean's here.
Sean, just talking about you. Well, not just about half an hour ago, but no, it puts a new lease of life on us as sort of the people behind the show and behind the channel, because now I'm saying to the guys, if you've got anything, send it to me and I'll put it as members only. And they're like, oh, well, I don't really have it. I said, it doesn't need to be. I've made it clear that it doesn't need to be some polished, amazing, finished video. They don't care. They don't care. They just want to see something that perhaps other people haven't, or they want to see something that people haven't yet seen or might never see. And they just want to kind of, you know, behind the scenes. They want to kind of go backstage and see what's going on. And that's it. That's all they're interested in. Or they want some input. And I said, the thing is what you've got to bear in mind is that it does create traffic. Because Nimble was saying to me, I think something like, well, I've got a video that I'm currently working on. He said, but I'd rather people come to my channel to watch it. I said, but they're still going to. I'm not asking you to send me the video. I'm asking you to send me the link to the video so I can promote it as a members only sneak peek at a new video that, I don't know, let's say Bluestone, because Nimble does his Bluestone stuff. He's doing a Bluestone special. He's not, but this is an example. He's doing a Bluestone special because he hasn't revisited Bluestone for a while. He's doing a Bluestone special where he's going to, you know, add something to his Bluestone scene. And this is members only. And I'll put members only. Nimble is back in Bluestone, or the return of Bluestone, one day only, or whatever it might be. And then the link, maybe a snapshot or a video. So there's something visual there to go with all the writing. And then a link to it, so that the members will see that, but they'll get that link to go to his channel. And if he's got it as unlisted, they can view it, but they can only view it with the link. And I said, then you might then release, this might be on a Wednesday, and then you might release it on a Sunday. So I'm not asking you to hold it back forever, or you know, spend all that time on a video which will never get released to the public. That's not what I'm asking. It's doing two things. It's giving members that feeling of exclusivity, which again, that's what they want, almost regardless of what that exclusivity is. But it's also driving traffic through my channel to yours, which is essentially is what the whole point of this is me growing the community, but not in terms of the amount of people watching. It's growing the community in terms of bringing you guys on, taking you guys on. I remember like seeing, I used to read the Source magazine, hip hop magazine. It was really popular. And it was kind of an unwritten rule within the hip hop community that if you became popular as a solo artist, you bring your team along with you. So Eminem did it with D12, and Nelly did it with the Saint Lunatics and things like that, where they kind of got brought on, and then each of them got the chance to do their record, that kind of thing. And it was, you know, it doesn't always work, but that was my thing is that we worked as a team to get to where we are. The channel, which obviously they've all been putting their time and effort into more than perhaps their own channels, has now come to fruition a little bit, to some degree. I mean, obviously, you know, not compared to a lot of the stuff out there, but in comparison to, you know, some channels. So let's use that now as a kind of filter or a channel way to give you guys some of that, you know, because most of the people who are coming to see me and to see what's on my channel want to see them as well, want to see what they're up to as well, because they've been along for this ride, or in some cases want to see them more. So let me be the pathway to drive some, you know, associated content. So that's what we've started doing, and that's what we're going to try to look at doing. And again, there's no structure to it at the moment, which is the bit that I'm missing. I think you said the same thing. It's just kind of like a little bit loose, but at least there's something there. But I do want to say to the guys, look, we need to be putting out at least one piece of members only content, regardless of whether it's temporary or a poll or whatever it is, once a week, you know, to keep the juices flowing. Because I think our biggest thing in terms of doing, and the biggest difference I've seen in the channel is because when you're doing a show once a week on a Sunday, people start pigeonholing you to that time. So yes, they might tune in every week. They might be interactive in the chat. They might like, stream, help you promote it on Instagram, whatever it might be. So they're kind of die-hard followers of that show. But the rest of the week, they couldn't give a toss. You know, everybody else has got their attention. And I'm not trying to necessarily change that. They've still got free will. But I'm just trying to keep that momentum going. So it's like, obviously the daily stream for me is doing that at the moment, but that's going to end at some point. What is it that's keeping us, you know, in their circle of knowledge and, you know, relevance for the rest of the week? You know what I mean? And again, I'm not trying to say I want everybody to tune into something to that channel every single day, because I don't think the channel will ever be putting out content every day in terms of a long-term thing. But it helps. I feel like we need to use this kind of membership thing, and that's the main benefit for it for me, is to just keep us relevant to those people all week, rather than go, oh yeah, 7 o'clock, it's time to go and tune into the show, if they even do that, you know. So it's a great tool for that, but it needs to be used the right way. And like I said, the iron, you got to strike while the iron's hot, and at the moment is red hot, because we got 47 members at the channel, 33 on day one, and then an additional whatever it is, 14 since then. And a lot of those are gifted, so it's, you know, you got to get them, you got to kind of catch them in that net, and you got to keep them there, you know. So
I wonder where the line is. So I'm logged into the wrong account now, so I can't look. But I don't recall anything noticeable coming out for members only from ACOB in a long time. I don't care. That's not why I'm a member anyway, right? And they've also built something kind of exceptional over there, so it's kind of different anyway. I don't think anybody who's a member there cares about members only stuff. I mean, sure, we would all be excited to see it. I think the super chats, at least a bunch of them, are available for members only to watch, just like as, you know, 30-second track from YouTube, whatever. But I don't think there's been anything else that I'm aware of in a while.
Yeah, same. I think what you're saying is 100% right with ACOB. We took a lot of inspiration from them, not in so much as how they conduct their channel and their show, because even from the point where I wanted to do a live show from day one, it may have been inspirational from the fact that they were doing a live show. But from day one, I was like, if I was doing a live show, I'd do it completely different to this. And not because, oh, I don't like this. If I'm doing a live show, I'd do it completely different. But more like, wow, I like what these guys are doing. I love the idea of doing a live show, but I wouldn't do this kind of thing. I would do something slightly different. Because what you enjoy watching and what you enjoy showing, in a lot of cases, are two completely different things. I could never be at ease with I don't think I could ever be at ease with being the I don't know how to, it's hard to explain, but I see them as like hosts of a show. And I don't see us as hosts of a show. I just see us as the kind of facilitators of a show. You know, we're just putting it on. You know, we're just...
You guys are the contestants of the game show, and Sean is a game show host.
Absolutely. I think, you know, you've got to have some level of kind of game show host, and I think I probably take that job, but I enjoy the content of the show more than I do overseeing it as a kind of overseer. And I think Sean does a very good job of be in that, you know, overseer role, if you like, and he's very much kind of like keeping it on track, keeping it going. And I think you've got to have somebody like that in the chat, which I guess would be me by default. But I'm probably just one of the worst people in terms of keeping things, you know, on point, relevant, in the grand scheme of things. So yeah, so it's a completely different thing. It's a different dynamic. I always wanted to have guests on the show. I never wanted to be every week as a guest week. I think Full of Brick do a fantastic job of, you know, their show is solely, not solely, but their show is primarily guest based.
Yep.
In that the guest is the kind of the crux of the channel. The crux of the episode. So all the questions are around them. They're very engaging, and obviously I've met those guys in person, Nick and Marie. They're fantastic people, but you can see that is who they are deep down. Obviously, it's a parental thing. I think it comes from parental thing, but you're talking and they're kind of hanging off every word. They remember what you say. They engage with what you say, and like I said, we had a conversation with them in person. We went for dinner with them, myself and Slurpee, and you could see that they was like, just like no matter what you asked, it was all about you. And the conversation was constantly flowing, and they were asking questions. And it wasn't just kind of questions for the sake of asking questions. It was questions based on what we just said, you know? So, and they're fantastic at that. So their show is built around, and they probably spend less time engaging with the chat because it's all about the person in front of them. It's almost like you've got a guest visiting your house and you're kind of on your phone. You know, they see that as rude. I guess not that they've said that, but I think it's a good approach to have, and definitely a different approach to have. So I wanted something in between, where we do have guests and that we tailor that show to somewhat to that guest, i.e., you know, Sarah, Paddy the Theatre Dog. We're going to be having her on the show as a guest very soon. Cool. And she's a huge Harry Potter fan. We've never really covered Harry Potter in terms of a theme on the show. So we'll tailor the remainder of the show once we've gotten to know her to her. So it's a little bit of both. We're engaging with the chat still. We've got that guest on, but our content is still the kind of thing we do, which is kind of arsing about, dicking about, making fun of sets, whatever, but based on a theme that's passion, you know. So we tailor our show around them, but also keep our show as our baby. Yeah. And I know, like ACOB, for example, very early on they did guests quite a lot, whereas they don't really do that now. They kind of, if anything, they just have a kind of an enlarged friend group who they kind of throw in and out, which works for them. And obviously people want to see those kind of regular faces. Ours is a little bit different in that, like you said, we have, but within that as well, the type of guest we have is what was important to me. I didn't want to just have celebrities from the community. I wanted to have unseen faces from the community. I wanted to have unsung heroes from the community, and I wanted to have our community as the guest. So Sarah, aka Paddy the Theatre Dog, had a YouTube channel where she used to watch other things, probably not even necessarily Star Wars or Lego. And I don't even know how she stumbled upon our page, became active in the chat, has become friends with us. Obviously, none of us have met her in real life at this point. She's been on a few streams. She's now going to be a guest on the show. And she doesn't have, and this, you know, I'm trying to say this in the nicest way possible, but she's not a, like, she doesn't fit into any kind of, you know, she's not a creator, she's not a show host, she's not a, you know, whatever you want to call it. So,
she's,
you know,
your Amy.
Absolutely, yeah.
She's your Amy.
And I think those people are just as important to be seen,
100%.
to be heard,
yeah,
as and a guy who's got a 1,000 or 1 million, who's got the biggest Lego collection in the world. Don't get me wrong, if we had the opportunity to have Duck Bricks on the show, I wouldn't pass it up. Yep. But I'm not reaching out. I have reached out to some other names in the community, but I'm not reaching out to those without also reaching out to some of the unsung heroes. And we've got this kind of ongoing tally chart. I don't actually know what the current total is. I think it might be getting close to 20 people that we've had on our show who we say we've popped their cherry, but the first time they've ever been on a stream or a live show of any kind is through our show. So I like to see our show as
the training
kind of, as a kind of an opportunity for them to, take up that next stage. This is probably going to be the worst analogy that I could give, and I remember talking about this quite early on in the show, way back. And my inspiration for what we do on the show, and this is totally out of love because it is meant for the right reasons. Just the analogy I'm going to give might not serve it very well. But I remember watching. Do you remember the Wonder Years, Fred Savage?
Oh yeah. Yep.
There was an episode of the Wonder Years, and he was probably like myself, one of those kids who wasn't particularly sporty, didn't always get picked. You know when they used to pick sides?
Oh yeah.
For me, it wasn't that I wasn't as capable. I know there was a lot of kids in my school who just couldn't kick a ball, couldn't throw a ball, whatever. That wasn't necessarily my case. My case is I just wasn't interested because I wasn't a books guy. I wasn't an reading the dictionary kind of guy. I was a creative guy. I was top of the class in my design tech class, which was technical drawing, making things out of wood, all that kind of stuff. That was my forte. So if you've got the kind of the geeks and the jocks, as you might say in the USA, for us here, there was kind of that middle ground as well of those kind of creative people who want to be drawing and making things, as opposed to reading books and being, intelligent, or being out playing sports all day. You know what I mean? So I was kind of that kind of person. But I always kind of got frustrated with this kind of picking situation where it's, superiority over camaraderie. Who's the best? I want to pick the best person for my team rather than who works together as a team better. And as a store manager, a retail manager, it was always important to me. And I've managed teams as small as 4, and I've managed teams as big as 60 people. And it's not about having the best people as it is about how those people work together. You know what I mean? And that's something I kind of learned quite early on. Anyway, there's this scene in the Wonder Years, which I remember, and it stayed with me. I watched it when I was about 10, but it stayed with me, where for whatever reason, Fred Savage's character, I can't even remember his name in the show, gets picked to be one of the guys who picks the teams, which he's like, and obviously he's got this internal monologue going on, and he's like, this never happens. So he's got the choice, where is he going to do the same as everybody else has done every week for the rest of his life? Or for as long as he remembers, where he just picks all the best sports people? Or is he gonna pick the people who were always picked last, just to give them the opportunity to not be picked last for a change? And that's what he does. He picks out all the kind of, they show the kind of, got all these big strapping lads and muscular lads, and then you've got all these kind of weedy guys with glasses and sellotape on their glasses or whatever, and they just kind of always get picked last for sports. And he picks all of them instead of anybody else, and they get absolutely thrashed, whatever. They don't do well. But the whole point of the episode and the kind of what makes it fantastic to watch and what stuck with me is the fact that he changed things. He wanted to do something a little bit different, and he gave those guys, and he saw that although they got completely annihilated, every single one of them grew 10 foot that day, and because of the opportunity to be part of something greater than just the weak kid or the quieter kid. And so I said to the guys early on, is that I used that analogy, and they were like, oh, so we're all like the rejects. And I said, no, I'm just saying that I'm giving other people an opportunity, or trying to give other people opportunity. I don't want that to make me sound like I'm some altruistic, Edda, but I just wanted to give other people limelight who perhaps would normally be forgotten about, and encourage people like Smokey to come on. And I remember Smokey saying to me, if you get me on that live show, you're going to see the first ever death on a live show. And I was like, wait, do they mean because they're going to die on stage, you know, or because they're going to kill me? I wasn't actually sure what they meant. But when I asked them that, they basically said, well, actually both. So it was a bit of like their nervousness in terms of being in front of a camera, and a bit of, I'm annoyed that you've kind of put me in this situation. But now they are completely comfortable with it and fine with it. And again, I'm not trying to sound like, yay, I've given all these people the freedom to be themselves or anything like that, because a lot of the time it's taking some twisting and some arm bending. But I have wanted to make sure that anybody we have on our show is a face and not a name and a voice.
Yeah.
So, and we use Magisto's workshop as an example. Now, maybe not worldwide, but Magisto is quite well known as around the UK, and in the kind of, if we're in the Star Wars circle of Lego, he's, you know, in the medieval castle,
the castle guy,
and he's quite prolific in that community. Quite big, you know, he's got a big following. He does like some mocks, and he's a collector of old sets, and if you're kind of medieval, he's your Ryan or your Tyler, you know, in terms of Star Wars. He's your kind of, so we got him on the show, and he'd only ever been a voice, and he'd always worn a beard if he'd been on a show, which wasn't very often, and dressed up as Magisto, i.e. the character, the Lego character. But he decided to come on our show, and it was like, you know, he came on with the beard and glasses, and immediately took them off and got to know us, and I was blown away by that, because it was his first time showing his face on a stream which wasn't even connected to his own community. You know, it wasn't like he was doing it on his own live stream or anything like that, which he could have quite easily done and kept that for that purpose, but didn't. And that, you know, that's just one example of something that I thought, yeah, this is what I want to be doing on this show. I want to be giving the unsung heroes an opportunity, giving the people who are in the chat the opportunity. And I'm perfectly aware of the fact that if you put everybody from the chat on screen, there's nobody in the chat. You know what I mean? So there is that.
One or two at a time, right?
Yeah. So, but it's just about giving these people an opportunity to showcase themselves and talk outside of the limits of, you know, 50 characters or whatever it is at a time. And I think the other reason that we started trying to do that and focus on that was because we'd had a lot of conversations with people who were going to Brickworld prior to Brickworld last year, where they'd said they're most nervous about the fact that they're going to go when people aren't going to know who they are or what, and they're going to kind of have to try and establish, well, actually, I'm the name, I'm the face behind that name, which, you know, for a lot of us meeting for the first time, even if we'd seen each other on a dozen streams, it's still that, you know, it's still that bit of, I wouldn't say animosity, but there's still that kind of, it's a bit awkward to start with, and you just kind of, you've seen each other behind a screen, you've gotten to know each other, but it's different when you're in person, and it takes a while to kind of warm to a person. But then if that person's never actually been seen, they've never had a face, they've never had a voice, they've just had words and a symbol or an icon or a logo or whatever it might be, then for them there's that extra level of anticipation and concern and whatever, and they just kind of step back. So that's why I said to the guys, well, in our hype about Brickworld, why don't we just try and get a few people on who've never, you know, so we know who they are, what they look like prior to that. And I can't remember who off the top of my head, but I think there was 2 or 3 people who we did that with in the run up to Brickworld. And afterwards they reached out to me and said, I really appreciate that, thank you, because that helped, because now people knew who I was going into there. Not because everybody in the world had seen our show, but because it gave them that confidence, or that level of confidence, at least within a small group of people, even if it was just 5 or 6 people who would happen to be in the chat when they'd appeared on the show. Then that was their legway in, because they would go then and be like, oh, this is such and such, you know, they're hanging around with such and such, that kind of thing. So it was a little bit of that. And again, that was something I'd always set out to do from day one. Give them the voice, give them a face, and we've done that, and we've carried on doing that, and that has become our kind of extended family now, if you know what I mean. And we're doing this stuff, so I'm gonna feel like we've ticked a massive tick when we get Sarah on the show. Now, anybody else, any other show host would say, "Oh, we've got Duck Bricks on, we've got Ryan on. That's a huge achievement for the show." And I'd feel the same if I was them. But for me, a big achievement is having somebody go from not even a Star Wars or a fan, Star Wars or a Lego fan necessarily, casually appeared in some chat, and has gone from that to being the featured guest, where we tailor our show around that person and what their passion is, when they'd probably never even, I don't even think Sarah had even bought a Lego set prior to coming watching our show.
Really?
And that for me is the full circle, and that's huge achievement. That's one big tick for me. And I hope if Sarah watches this back, she, appreciates what it is I'm trying to say here. But yeah, those are the kind of things that we get. And I say we, I'm talking for the lads here, but that we get that sense of achievement from, more than, ooh, we've got more subscribers. We're doing a service,
Well, more subscribers means you get to put these new people in front of more people, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think Liam is a perfect example of, and again, I keep saying this, and the way I'm talking is almost as if, I've reached the pinnacle of greatness, and now I'm everybody else's influence. That obviously I don't think that way at all, and it is very difficult to talk about these things. I would never have done a show on myself or the channel about achievement, success, because it's hard for me to do that. It's different when you're on somebody else's, because they're looking at it from an outside point of view. So you have to kind of take what their opinion is of it. But I'm not here blowing smoke up my own ass and saying, "Oh, this is what I've done. This is what you should do."
That's why you're here.
Well, yeah, but I'm very conscious of the fact that a lot of it is.
No, this isn't coming off as ego at all.
Right. I was going to say it because I just need to be aware that I'm still fully grounded in the fact that a big percentage of what's happened has been luck, accidental, trial and error, support from my chat, support from my family, support from all of that before skill, ability, and talent. That probably makes up less than 1% of everything else that's gone into doing this. But I think for me, one of the biggest kind of feelings of, right, we're doing something right, we're doing what I set out to do, was what happened with Liam, both with the fact that he's now got a regular show which people are tuning into and is getting some good views and stuff like that.
And Smokey's his co-host.
And Smokey is the co-host. But they're building that community within a community. Yeah. And I'm just seeing them as, oh, great, this is a guy that I reached out to because he was always in the chat. And I said, look, I want to do an Australian episode. Would you like to be on? Great. Met him for the first time in that green room prior to the show. He came on. He was one of the people who mentioned to me, look, it's nice to have, for people now to be able to put a face to the name thanks to your show, whatever it might be. I think he may have been on a Cold Fusion stream prior. And again, the whole Cold Fusion was about, that initially anyway, just getting different people on. And it was a kind of open forum. But he's now gone on to, I've given him some help and advice around using StreamYard, and he's paying that back or helping us in return by being a kind of irregular co-host or a casual co-host of the show, but also helping us with the music side of things. But just the fact that he's, building his own kind of community, which I consider as his community that he's building now. But he recently did an episode, and he released a piece of music specifically for the show, and he's saying that I want to start doing this show for UK people to be suitable for their time frame, which is a great thing to do. He's doing it.
Oh, that's right. He did a show with Whittaky. Was it last week?
Yeah, Whittaky and Sarah was on, and Nimble was on. I think Slurpee might have popped on. I was on there for a bit. So he was doing it for you. But he created a piece of music specifically for that. And then he sent me the piece of music, even though at this point I hadn't said that I was going to be able to pop on. And in the music, the lyrics are something, I can't remember exactly what the words are, but it's something along the lines of Liam Brick the Bread stream for the UK guys, part of the Cool Hand family, or something like that. And I'm thinking, wait, does he feel as if he's an offshoot of our show, channel, whatever you want to say? Because that's like, if that is the case, which I'm assuming from everything I'm seeing, that's like a really nice feeling, like that he feels as if he's an offshoot or a kind of sub, and I don't think of it like that at all. I just thought, I've given some guys some advice, just like I took some advice, and now he's doing his own thing. I don't even think of it as, oh, that bird, he's flown the nest and he's, you know, I don't think of it as that. I just think I've helped some guy do something that I needed help doing a year or so ago. I'm just paying it forward. But he sees it as, you know, he's a kind of offshoot of our channel, and which I'll take that. I'm more than happy to be that person. But it does feel, that did feel great just hearing that. And even if that's not what he meant by it, even if he just put that in because, you know, whatever, but he's creating something for his channel. The reference is our channel, our community. So I thought that was pretty cool. I really enjoyed that. And it kind of reminded me a little bit of when we first started out and people used to say, oh, are you the UK ACOB? And I was like, oh, no, we're the UK us. But I'm happy to say that we are kind of, you know, born from what they created to some degree.
Yeah.
Because I'm not afraid to say that we took some influence from what they were doing. Like I've said, you know, like I said earlier on, but if Liam kind of feels a similar way about what we've done on our show or the channel or whatever, then that's really inspiring, you know, in return. So yeah, that kind of thing is what keeps me going. Even if it's just in my own head, like even if I'm just kind of making a lot of that up and it's not actually as excited as I'm making it sound, it's still nice to see. Oh,
You ringing bells?
yeah, no, I have to be careful with my feet under here because this table has got like, I don't know what kind of metal there is. So I guess it's hollow metal, like the big thick legs of this table. But of course, when you hit one, it's like hitting a bell because it just rings out. So and then you have to touch the metal again to stop. Yeah, it's like.
Yeah, actually, on that note, it's we should probably call it here. It's 11 here, so it's oh my god over there.
Yeah, 4 o'clock in the morning. Yeah, I need to get some sleep.
Yeah,
you know,
sure.
It just goes to show how much I could probably talk my own self to sleep, because I remember looking at the time and thinking, oh, it's not even been an hour yet. But you know, obviously I know I got carried away, but I also know from conversations with you and being on this show before that you prefer the throw in a question now and then and let them run away with it.
Yep.
I know you prefer that. So I didn't feel as bad kind of spending 90% of the show talking about myself or talking about anything. But was there any sort of questions or anything that we perhaps didn't cover?
I don't think so. I think we kind of went through it all. It's we covered the bases pretty good there. Now for a little plug for you at the end here, your membership tiers, they were all pretty easy, right? It was like a buck and $2 and $5 or $6 or somewhere in there. Is that what it was?
No, it's literally just 2 tiers.
Okay.
I don't know what it computes to in US. I think it's the same actually. So effectively speaking, people in the US are getting a better deal because of the exchange rate. But 99 pence entry level, 199 second tier. Now I've said to the guys that I won't be changing the price. I don't think you can anyway, but I won't be changing the price of those 2 tiers. But I may potentially change. I may potentially change the content of those tiers in the fullness of time. But at the moment, I've got no intention of doing that. But at the moment, I just want to be comfortable that we're putting something out at least semi-regularly for everything on there. And we did do a lot. We kind of put like, I think it was like, apart from the thing, you know, the emojis and the super chat, what it calls, sorry, the emojis and the loyalty badges, we put like 5 things in each. And the guys were sort of saying, well, that seems like quite a lot. And I'm like, yeah, but we don't have to do something for everything every week. As long as we're doing a little bit of it, I think that, like I've already said, I think that's all that's important. It's not like we've got to do a live show every Monday and a sneak peek every Tuesday. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
I think that's just too much.
Hey, before I delete this comment, you want to read this last one in your head because it's actually kind of funny. All right, we'll get rid of that now. That was pretty good, but it also doesn't need to be there.
Do you know what? I would have read that out because it didn't. It took me about 6 times reading it before I realized I knew it was one of those. I knew there was a hidden thing in there. I just couldn't get it by reading it out. I think I would have had to read it out loud to have got it, and then it would have been too late. But yeah. But no, yeah. So 2 levels. Okay. We always said we wanted to keep it cheap. Again, not comparison to what anybody else is doing. They can do what they like, and I think depends on value for money. It makes sense. Like, so some people have got like links to their merch, and I think if we were to do something like that, like if I spoke to Cody and said, let's do 10% off for membership on, you know, assuming you agree to that, then I think we'd have to add an extra layer on, because I think at the moment, you know, there's a cost implication there, and it's the same with yourself. Yours, there's a cost implication involved in what you're offering, so therefore you kind of have to be a little bit more strategic with it. With us, it's just, you know, checking out more content. So
we also included the 10% off the merch rolled in there too.
Yeah. So I think when there's a cost implication, you've got to kind of pay that dividends or fill that gap or whatever it might be. So we got no intention of doing that at the moment. I just want to kind of get comfortable with what we got. But like I said, it is two stages at the moment. And again, you know, it's trying to keep people on board. You know, it's particularly the people who've been gifted. I want them to see that, yes, there's a variety of content. Yes, there's a variety of members-only things that have been, you know, slowly but surely being pushed out. But also there's a lot to come for that price. So, you know, do with it what you will. But like I said, we're never going to encourage people to make donations. If they feel like they want to help out the channel and they feel encouraged to do so, then yeah, gift some memberships, because I think that is a bigger potential in terms of long-term and future-proofing the channel and the memberships than anything else. So, and anybody will tell you with a good head on their shoulder that a slow, regular income is better than a, you know, every couple of weeks a chunk, you know. And again, that is still not. I'm still not saying that in terms of, you know, I want my pockets lined regularly with small change, then, you know, every couple of weeks somebody throwing a note my way. it's not in terms of earnings, it's in terms of investing in the channel. Because if you're getting a regular, small, tiny income, then you can do more in terms of improving the channel with that than you can 50 then, 3 weeks later 2, another 3 weeks later 10, so.
Yes, for sure. Hey, Still Ghost is here. What's going on, man?
What's happening, mate? How are you doing?
All right. So for anyone who's watching now or in replay, if you are not subscribed to Cool Hand for some reason, you should probably do that. I'm sure you've gathered that after 2 hours now. Link to his channel and his Instagram is in the description. If you're watching over on Cool Hand's channel, then, well, that makes that real simple for you. Make sure you like everything. If you are not subscribed to the Brick Dynasty channel, we're easy to find. You can just search Brick Dynasty. Pretty basic since it's on the screen right now. And I think that's it for plugs. Did I miss anything?
No, not that I know of. I did copy and paste your description into mine anyway, so I think all the if you add your links in there, they're there on my channel as well. But the one thing I will say though is since me and you have been on this ride for quite a while, I know you've always been. I mean, you certainly started before us, so it makes sense that you're that much ahead. But it would be nice. Like, I think we're going to be hitting that finish line within a close proximity to each other. It doesn't really matter who gets there first as much, but it would be nice once we've both gone over that line to do something together again.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
We still talk about that show. I mean, I just like watching the intro to your show because I'm like, I'm in that 3 times. Yeah. I'm in that more than anybody else. Yeah. But whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, I guess, I don't know. But we still talk about that show, that first collaboration we did with yourself and
Saunders was on that one too.
Saunders, yeah. Christ, I almost forgot the guy's name. Shout out to Saunders, but we still talk about that all the time. It still comes up in conversation. In fact, we're going to make that a sneak peek. We're going to. Exclusive sort of first here that we're going to make that clip of Whittaky when he was all painted blue. We're going to make that a super chat. So the plans are in motion for that. But we still talk about that all the time. It was one of the best ones we've done, and obviously, it's the main one for us in terms of us making a future connection, particularly with yourself. So I'm really appreciative of that, and you reaching out to me to be on the show, and always a pleasure to be on and work together when we can. So it'd be nice if we do, like, regardless of who gets there first or what our actual numbers are at any given point, to do a kind of, I'm going to do a celebration of hitting 1K personally, which, I like to think is going to be a kind of a bit of a celebration, a free for all for the community. But it'd be nice to do a kind of, we're both now 1K whenever that happens, and revisit that collaboration and redo it. Get it going again. What it's going to look like, I don't know, but perhaps we'll pick something else that might be quite exciting, and maybe get Tanya on and Tadashi. See if we can wheel Saunders back out. I don't know what it looks like, but
so. It's funny that you mentioned Saunders. I think the last time he was on as a co-host was when we interviewed Ryan from Bricks and Minifigs. Right before his grand opening.
Right.
He's going to be our guest next week. He just celebrated his 1-year anniversary of the store being open.
Oh wow, yeah.
Yeah, so we're going to talk about his first year with the store and all of the blowback that he's seen from the current scandal and all of that. Because
I do remember. I remember that. Was that a year ago?
Yeah, it's been just over a year.
Wow.
Time.
I didn't realize. Was Saunders on that show with us?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
I thought I was on that show because he wasn't.
It's
But I might be
wrong. Yeah, I don't know. I thought you guys were both on there.
Yeah, my memory's not the greatest. So
yeah, same.
but no, yeah, it'd be nice to kind of revisit that first collaboration, and be like, you know, celebrating something together, and you know, whatever it might look like.
Let's see if we can paint Whittaky a different color. And
Yeah.
there's just no recreating the magic of that first time, though. That was so
No,
good.
I know. I mean, I'd asked for the guys to do like a stupid video or something, but I didn't expect them to go to that extreme. And it was like, it just goes to show his level of commitment that early on. But no, and obviously, you know, the only other thing I wanted to say before I go is Brick World. Obviously, we're not going. Gonna miss you. Gonna miss Tanya. And obviously, a lot of the guys out there who may or may not be watching. You know, we are disappointed about it. I think we've done a good job of pretending we're not. We have avoided doing the hype stream this year, which I think, I don't know. I'm not sure if there's any controversy behind that, but it just does seem a little bit kind of self-indulgent when you're only hyping her up when you're involved in it. But you know, I have said to the guys, look, what do we want to do with this? And they say, look, at the end of the day, I don't think people expect you to hype up something you're not going to be part of. And not only that, but you're never going to hype it up the way you did that first year, because for you, it was a first time for not just us as hosts, but you know, a lot of the people watching. It was first time for you and a lot of the people. So, you know, you never do it again like that anyway. But I think Whittaky said like he'd like to try and do something and cover it a little bit. But Whittaky was also talking about trying to do something from out there.
I'll be bothering him about that.
Yeah, so I
will be going live from Chicago on Tuesday.
Yeah, I think his main issue, and I wouldn't say it was a question for you, but more of a sort of a challenge, is that I'd like to do a kind of tune-in from there on our show, depending on when that lines up. And I think Whittaky's probably just a little bit tech
deficient,
scared when it comes to that. So it'd be nice if we could set up, I know the timeline is short now, but it'd be nice if we could set up something where there's somebody out there, whether it be yourself and Whittaky, or you, Liam, and Whittaky, or whatever it might be, where we have like a little contingent of people out there who kind of tune into the show and tell us what's going on. It doesn't have to be a full length show, because we'll be doing that from here anyway. But in terms of being like, right now over to our
correspondent,
our correspondents out in Brick World, and cover it a little bit that way, as opposed to doing the kind of the preemptive stuff. But I don't know what that looks like, because I know he hasn't got laptop and all that kind of stuff. So I don't know.
I'll have all of that gear with me. So so that would be 1 p.m. Chicago time on Sunday.
I know you've gone. Had you gone by that time last year?
I left real early Sunday morning last year. This year we're doing Monday to Monday, so we'll still
Yeah, well, we'll work something out. Obviously, I'm not expecting to put anything on paper now, but it might even just be support for Whittaky to do something. But we'll see what happens. But no, sad that we're not going, but looking forward to seeing everybody else have a fantastic time.
We'll create a ruckus for you. I'll make sure to have a non-alcoholic beer while we're at whatever random bar we end up at.
And wear those Hawaiian shirts. What the only other question I was going to have actually is, did you manage to work out what you're going to do in terms of showcasing your app?
No.
Right.
What I am going to do, starting probably Thursday, I think Thursday, if I can get the content done in time, we are going to announce that we're going to give everybody who comes and says hi during the course of Brick World 30 days of free access to the app.
Ooh.
So all they have to do is just come over, find us, and say hello. That's it. That's the requirement, and we give them 30 days of free access.
And when you say come over, and is that catching you while you're walking around, or have you got did you manage to
just
secure?
find us while we're walking around.
Right.
Either
So you've
in
got,
the venue, outside while I'm smoking a butt, catch me at the bar, like whatever. Find us within that 7-day period.
right.
We'll give them 30 days for free.
Oh, that sounds good. But if you create any sort of media for that, let me know, and I'll showcase it as well, where and when I can.
Right on. Appreciate that.
I know a lot of our community is going to be going there as well. It's mostly a shared community, so they already probably know you. But in case there's a few there lost in between, then yeah, definitely like to. And like I said, initially I remember saying to Kirsty, my biggest disappointment is that I would have liked to help Ken with his kind of launch or whatever it was going to look like. So part of me is, it's awful to say, but part of me is glad you didn't end up doing something like that, because not, from a selfish point of view, because I would have loved to have been involved, and and I would have missed that opportunity to kind of, help support with it. But yeah, I guess, with something like that, it's not going away, is it? So you can always kind of go back to the drawing board and see how it goes.
We ended up with a potential opportunity that was just so big. It was try to sink the money into promoting what we currently have, or really tighten up and try to take this massive leap, and it either works or we fall on our face at whatever.
Yeah.
But we're kind of in a holding pattern, waiting for the giant leap.
Right.
And I didn't want to sink a ton of money in now when we have that coming up. So I can't talk too much about that just yet.
No, that's fine.
There are other people involved. Who's the nature of not having any money. But but yeah, so we'll see what happens. But we do want to get at least get it into a lot of people's hands. And because I'm not one to promote anything, and I am one to give everything away, that's typically how we do,
Yeah.
So lots of giveaways, shitloads of stickers. We have tiles this year, just little ones, just 2x4 tiles.
I did see them, and I was tempted to reach out to Whittaky and say, if you're passing Ken, and there's a tile up for grabs, see if you can grab me one.
Yep.
But if they're going to be linked to something, the app or whatever, then I'll of course use them there first.
No, I can make sure you get a tile for sure.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Put that back to them. All right, man. I gotta go take some medicine, and you gotta get some sleep.
Yeah, I was going to say I won't. Just to pre-warn you, I won't green room it. So when we close out, I'll close out if that's okay.
Yep, absolutely. But I'm sure I will talk to you soon. It has been a pleasure.
100%. Yeah, appreciate you having me on, mate. Take care, and shout out to Tanya. I can hear her sort of coughing in the background. So
yeah. All right. Good night, everyone. It's always a pleasure. We love you guys. We will see you back here next Tuesday at 9 p.m. with Ryan from Bricks and Minifigs, Cincinnati East, to talk about all the latest Bricks and Minifigs nonsense and celebrate his 1-year anniversary. So until then, good night, everyone. See you later.